Hello, my loves. Welcome back to another video on Starseed Academy. My name is Jenny. I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for joining me once again for a video. Today we have a video that was like so highly requested. I got so many emails about this because I had written in one of my newsletters, my weekly energy reports, I had written an email about me asking the Council for Humanity, which is a branch of the Galactic Federation of Light. I had asked them for insights about the disclosures that had been happening this year in 2023, specifically the last couple of months, disclosures by the government around like off-world crafts and beings that have been kind of all of a sudden popping up all around the world. So I've asked them and they've given some very specific answers, and that was the email. And so what I asked everybody was, do you want me to elaborate on this? Do you want to go deeper into this? And should I make this a full-length video? And that's when I got like so many people replying, yes, this is exactly what we want to hear about. So I'm so excited to dive into this. We'll start with the information in the email and go a little bit deeper into it. And I also have set up a sacred space prior to jumping on this recording, just in case, because I feel like it would be nice to do some live channeling as well to bring through that additional information. So we'll connect again with the same Council for Humanity. You should always know who you're channeling, or you should know who, if you're listening to somebody channel, you should also know what the source is. That's just clean and ethical channeling. You should know that. So that's why I always say who I'm talking to. Okay. I know it sounds like normal, but a lot of people don't do that. So the Council for Humanity, again, that's a branch of the Galactic Federation of Light. Lately, though, whenever I connect with the Council for Humanity, there's so many Pleiadians, like essentially like it's just a couple of Pleiadians that step forward. That wasn't always the case, because the Council for Humanity is a very multi-dimensional group of humans, mantis beings, Arcturians. There's kind of like a little bit of everything on that council, and it's in particular leaders from the Milky Way that are very invested in Earth and humanity. They're invested in helping us for our highest good, to reach whatever that is. Whatever you believe is for the highest good of humanity and the Earth. Well, they have a council called the Council for Humanity to try to help that to come through. And many of them are souls that have had lifetimes, incarnations on Earth. And that's why they care. Right? So that's a little bit of just history about who we're channeling. But let's ask them some of the same questions from that email. We'll go over what was in it in case you didn't read the email. We'll go deeper into it, and then we'll just see what new information wants to come through as well, okay? And I also want to, before we jump in, I want to remind you to like this video if you like it, share it. And I love your comments as well. So please comment below what stood out to you, what you liked, what you think, what your opinion is, of course. And also one other thing, if you're not on the email list, you get these reports that I'm about to share some of this information from. You get these free energy reports every single week. So make sure that you are on that email list, because I put lots of like time and effort into that, and it's all free. And so it's just another way that I like to serve my community and add value back. Okay. One final thing, if you're not following me over on Instagram, there's a lot of stuff on Instagram that doesn't make it over here onto YouTube. So if you resonate with me and my vibe and my energy, then come on over there as well, because you'll be happy that you did. There's a lot of insights, a lot of reels, a lot of light language, soul language, a lot of fun stories, behind the scenes stuff. So come find me over there. And then the last thing, I promise you this is the last thing, then we're jumping in. The last thing is join the membership group, the Starseed Academy membership. The link is in the bio, because we are really doing some exciting, unique stuff over there. I just wanted to tell you some of the really crazy examples. So August, the entire theme of August was the Pleiadians. connecting with the Pleiadians. We did an astral journey to the Pleiades. We talked to our Pleiadian guides. All of the live events were around the Pleiades. The month of September was all about water worlds and connecting with aquatic beings and deep diving into our own ocean to see the truth of what's down there, and the Bermuda Triangle, the fall of Atlantis, all the kinds of things that we learned from just what's under the ocean. And then we connected with a water world in the Pleiades, and we connected with one in Orion, and we learned a lot about their societies, and we even received a ton of channel guidance from them. It was just very unique and very special. Now, October's theme, I just put this message into the membership group. I just put it into the chat saying, like, okay, guys, I want to do something spooky, but still safe, still fun, still like beneficial to, you know, the highest good of all involved, of course, but something a little like spooky and October-y. So I don't know what the theme is going to be yet. I'm waiting for it to drop in, but I have some ideas. So, I mean, if that's your vibe, and if you enjoy these videos, you will love the membership. So think about joining. Okay, so shall we jump in? Let's do so. Okay, so in the original email, I had asked the Council for Humanity all about what's happening with the disclosures right now. Like, what's real? Honestly, what's real and what's not real? Because everybody's fear is that a lot of this is all a hoax and it can't be trusted. And how do we know what's real and what's not real? And that's why I love being able to channel. And this is why I love teaching people how to do it pure, ethical, and clean channeling, so that you know it's not your own opinions or your own ego kind of coming into the play. So the very first question that I had asked them was on the disclosures that the governments have brought forward. So there have been things that governments bring forward, and then there are things that like people bring forward, you know, like just regular people have crazy experiences, and those videos can also go viral. So we had them in two different categories. So what they said about the disclosures that the government chooses to bring forward is the disclosures themselves, whether these be craft or literal alien beings, which we know that's happened very recently. They said it's real around 85% of the time, which I thought was really funny that they gave me like a percentage. So that means there's a small percentage. There's definitely a section of them, for whatever reason, bringing through things that are either half truths or maybe not even true. But 85% of what they're bringing forward, the governments themselves, is real. And that was really surprising. And what they said was, it's not that it's false information. However, the bigger question that we should be asking ourselves is, what is the intention around revealing this now? Because in 2023, they've just decided that they want to reveal all of these things. Why? Like, that's where the manipulation is happening, not necessarily in the information, more in the timing and how much they're revealing versus how much is actually going on, right? So they said, because if the governments can make it seem dangerous and scary and, oh my gosh, you guys, look at all this stuff that's been happening, you know, the things that they've shot out of the sky really early on in the year that they said were like observing us, and they like shot them out of the sky. The videos that they released of craft flying and zooming off, and everybody and all the pilots that were catching these videos, like Air Force pilots and different things like that, they disclosed all of these videos earlier this year, them being a little bit spooked by it. And so the reason why is, like, if they can make it seem kind of scary and a little bit dangerous, then the collective of humanity suddenly becomes grateful for this big, strong government to handle it on their behalf, and like letting that government swoop in to protect them. And they give their power away once again. So it's like they want to kind of almost like release it all. They're not releasing it all, but they want to release just the right amount to create that feeling of being out of control, like humans feeling like, oh no, we don't know the truth. We don't know what's going on up there. And we don't have the resources and the equipment and the wherewithal to protect ourselves. Like, thank goodness for this big, strong government to like sweep in and protect us. And that is a falsehood, and that is a manipulation, because the government is tactical in why they're releasing this now, because they've got quite a large agenda that they're trying to accomplish by 2030. And so they are pulling out all the stops: climate change, pandemics, alien disclosure, and all of these things, right? So it does act like emotional preparation for a larger event that will be staged and will create and will be created to incite that fear so that they can grab that control that we're talking about. So this is a game to them, and the playbook is to create the possibility in the minds of the collective that there are negative aliens, and they're watching the earth, and they're preparing to make their move. And that just isn't true. I'm not saying that there aren't negative aliens watching the earth, but they're already here, to be honest with you. Like, most of the negative aliens are like in inner earth. And so like anything kind of in the skies and zooming around in the skies, or bodies that they found from like thousands and thousands of years ago and finally are bringing forward, like, that's not actually a danger anyway. But you can understand, you can see now why they're doing that, because it is emotional preparation for something larger. So then that leads to the fact that a lot of people ask me, like, do you think there's going to be like a staged kind of like false flag alien thing? And I do. And that's what came through. This is from the Council for Humanity. That's what they said. They said it's emotional preparation for a larger event that will be staged and created to incite fear. So then for us, it becomes just like using discernment and trying to figure out like what is real and what is not real. And I'll definitely be, here for that, here to help guide through that. I'm not going anywhere. There's lots of beautiful people that are able to really like tune in and get the truth. But again, just make sure that your sources are coming from people that are citing their source, using clean and ethical channeling, setting up sacred space, making sure no ego is in there when they do it. And I think that people are starting to get on to the fact that not all channeling that's done is done properly, right? So anyway, meanwhile, what the government is choosing to disclose, it might seem like a lot, but it's just peanuts in comparison to what they actually have, what they're currently interacting with, what they're currently holding back from us, both the beings, the technology, the spacecraft, all throughout history, and still today, that they are interacting with this. And this reminds me of my I did a predictions video for 2023. And yeah, oh, I should pull that up somewhere. I should pull that up, and we should do a video where we just like compare what's happened this year. Maybe I should do it at the end of the year. Compare what's happened this year to what I predicted. But I know that in that predictions video, I had said that what was going to be disclosed was that there was communication happening with other beings. Now, that hasn't happened yet to my knowledge. And the way that I saw it was that it was going to be disclosed that, well, exactly that there was communication, that some government officials had, either through radio or through whatever kinds of like high-tech radios that they had actually been communicating and sending signals and receiving back things. So whether it could be in a language or not, or whether it had to be in like Morse code or something similar, like some kind of text signals, wavelengths of some kind, that there was going to be proof disclosed that it was back and forth, that they weren't just sending these signals out into the beyond and receiving nothing back, that they actually started to receive something back and then continued a conversation kind of thing. That is in my predictions for 2023. So I'm interested to see if we see that come to light before the end of the year. Okay. So that's about the government. So let me just ask, I'm going to move on to the next section that I want to talk about, is the disclosures that the public brings forward, right? Not related to government, but people like you and me, when they have an experience and they catch it on film, or they tell about it and it gets going around the internet. I want to ask, we're going to talk about that. But before I shift, I'm going to tune in right now to the Council for Humanity and ask, is there anything that they want to add to on the disclosures that the governments have brought forward? And let me just tune into that. So what I'm seeing is inner earth, and what I'm seeing is specifically reptilian beings, draconian beings, reptilian beings. And and I see them working, literally, they said like side by side with government officials. Do you know what they just said? They just said blackmail. Wow, okay. So there's blackmail happening on the side of, now I do want to just quickly say as a caveat, you guys know this already because I've made a whole video about this, but not all reptilians are bad. Okay, because that's not fair. There is a reptilian council of light. However, the ones in inner earth, they're kind of like those negative ones that you hear about that are trying to take over and taking over people's bodies and trying to take over the government and this and that. They just said to me that they showed me blackmail, and they showed the negative reptilian leaders blackmailing high up heads of state. They just said heads of state, blackmailing them to, ooh, maybe we'll find out what it is. One second. Interesting. Blackmailing them so that the reptilians in the inner earth can get a say on what happens on the surface. So they have a hand, that's creepy, but they have a hand in like bills that pass through parliament. and and bigger stuff too, like black op forces, they're saying. um they said so that the reptilians have a crew of humans on the surface that do their bidding. That's who the black op forces thing was. So the reptilians down on inner earth that can't come to the surface to be seen, and then the point is they actually want to hide. They don't want people to know that they exist because that's how they can do their dealings. But they have this like black op forces like team that they get to, it's like they're in charge of what they do, so they can send them out there they send orders from where they are in like this compound in inner earth. They send orders up, and that black op force team does whatever they want. And that could be a lot of things. That has to do with politics, that has to do with terrorism, that has to do with inciting war and fear, that has to do with, even like I heard the words like Russia, the Russian war. um so much. Okay, so that's really interesting. So in order to hold that control and to be able to be in charge of one of those black op forces, I don't know how many people they have in their command, but it feels like hundreds, not thousands, which is still something. um in order to continue to hold that, they have like there's some kind of blackmail happening for like the heads of defense, the secretary head of defense or something like that. They have something on that person where, or it's just fear where they're threatening them and their family, but they've got in their claws some of these heads of the defense and heads of the military, those kinds of people that would be able to provide a team of like that. And then they are able to have their own plans and their own dealings apart from humans, using humans as the ground crew to do stuff, but not having to go through like the president or like this head of state, or they just have their own team and they can just directly send them instructions. So that's never really come through before. I wonder why that's coming through when I'm asking about disclosure though. Like that, I mean, I guess that the fact that it's aliens in inner earth and that they have such a deep, so deeply entangled into human affairs. And they're saying, and also they're showing me like this large map of the earth, and they're showing me them moving pieces around like a chess game. So interesting, creepy, creepy, creepy. So that's not something that would really come to light. No one's going to be like, oh, let's disclose that. No, that's a very deep secret, super deep secret that is happening. And it feels very dark, and it feels like the agenda being to keep humans against one another and in that fear and in that separation, because these beings are able to feed off of those kinds of energies, right? They feed off of energy and blood and fear and terror, and they're very different bioorganism, the way that they're set up, and that is what they feed on. And so of course they're on the perfect planet. If they're wanting to feed on fear and violence, it's like, look what that's the kinds of events that they create. They keep showing me like the Twin Towers, and that they had like a hand in that, and that they almost like pushed that through, and that maybe not everybody that we think is super evil in the government is, that maybe they're actually more being blackmailed than we think. Not to say that they're good if they're going along with that, but blackmail is blackmail, and that can be really scary. So very interesting. Okay. So that's definitely gone a little deeper into that. All right, let's move on. I always love when I like drop something like that. And I'm like, okay, to sum up, no, let's move on though. So we're going to move on now to the disclosures that the public brings forward. Okay. And what the Council for Humanity and these Pleiadians in particular had to say about that, like the experiences that they would catch on camera, or, things like that would happen. So what they said was humans are having real interactions and experiences with off-world life forms all the time. It is happening so often, so common in every country of the world, all the time, to children, to adults, to animals. And it's just a very real thing. So really, to doubt somebody's experience like that, I feel like there's very little reason for people to fake those kinds of things, because the ridicule and the backlash that they get, why would they? It's not to say it never happens, but I would say most of the time I believe when people say that they see something or have had an experience, I tend to believe them. And that's kind of like confirmation that it is true. And then they said, if an experience starts to gain too much attention, i.e. the aliens in the Las Vegas backyard, they specifically spoke about it. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad, because that was so like, what happened? If you don't know what that is, you need to Google that and watch that if it hasn't been taken down by the government. There were videos of this family in Las Vegas where a ship had crashed into their backyard, and they saw the beings getting out of the ship, and they were stuck there for a little while trying to get their ship going again or something. And yeah, and everyone was like, is that real, or are they faking it? And what came through was that family had no reason to fake that or pretend, and that really happened. But if an experience like that starts to gain too much attention, the Black Shadow government forces are sent to investigate, see what really happened, and then cover up all evidence. Because the only disclosure that the government will allow is the disclosure that they disclose, only if it comes from their own mouth. Otherwise, it's not real. That's what they would have everybody believe, which makes no sense. Like, how does that make sense for us? And yet the programming goes so deep, because it was like in the 1950s or something where they started creating the programming to shame people that spoke up and said they had had an alien experience. They created like this societal programming, and how they can do that through mainstream media and shows and entertainment, and everybody back then was watching the same channels on TV, because there was probably like 2 channels. And they created this thing where they made fun of anyone that said aliens were real. They would create shows about it. They would create news stories about it. They would purposefully discredit everything that came forward, until now no one is trusted. And it's the same way that these shadow governments created the same thing around conspiracy theorists. So if anybody questions the government, they immediately are dangerous or tinfoil hat wearers, like mentally unstable and stuff like that. Well, they did that for people that have experienced abductions or even just seen an alien or a spaceship. Like they must be mentally unstable. They belong in like the psych ward. And it's like, that's very harmful, but I see why they did that. You know, you can see why they did that. It makes so much sense that they wouldn't want those people to be believed. Okay. So unless the government itself is doing the disclosing, they will go way beyond measures you think to shut up people and to quiet it down. So what it said, what the Council for Humanity then said was that government forces were sent in to investigate that, to cover up the evidence, to take the evidence with them, anything, they would take it. And that the humans involved, so that family and other, this has happened to so many people, those humans that get involved in these kinds of things and innocently try to share video or try to tell their story, and they're telling it from a place of this really happened, and you can even see the fear and the terror, and you know that it's true. The humans that involved are coerced into admitting that they can't be certain what they saw actually. Well, maybe there is a 1% chance that that's not what I saw. They start to put doubt in their own minds, and they try to coerce them into that it could have been something else, thus losing their credibility, right? Because as soon as they say, well, yeah, I guess there's a 1% chance it was a stranger running through the backyard or this or that, and they plant that seed of I can't trust myself, but they also, that destroys that person's credibility to the public as well. And then they also use thinly veiled threats. So just straight up threats then, not bribery. Because I know a lot of people think, oh, that person got paid off, and they stopped talking. They probably got paid off. Oh, so-and-so was going on and on and on about this experience, and now when you ask them about it, they're like, nope. Oh, they must have got paid off. No, they're saying it is not bribery. That would be a nice scenario compared to what the truth is, but the truth is that they are threatened to keep them from talking about that experience, and they have the ability to destroy people's credit, people's finances, make people lose their jobs, lose their home, hurt their family. They have the ability to make people disappear. And in extreme cases, they have done exactly that. And they've used these tactics in the past to silence experiencers or disappear them. And I mean, if that was you, it's not worth your family's life. It's not worth your own. You would just stop talking about it, or most people would, because most people have something to lose, a loved one, right? A pet, even, that would just be so awful to have even your pet threatened. So I can understand why they clam up and stop talking about it, and I don't blame them. But it's interesting to know that it's not some greed or some bribery that has happened. It is threats to keep them from continuing to talk about the experience, and all the evidence is taken into custody, even if it's not theirs. The government, if it's like even that person's like car, or I don't know, something maybe was involved in it, they would just take your property as well. They would take over your business. They would take over your home or whatever it was. So I just feel like there's no lengths that they wouldn't go to. Okay. So, and then they said they also have an online team, this shadow government, that's in charge of making sure that no disclosure happens unless it's okay by the government. They also have an online team, so like internet, that can quickly destroy the credibility of these stories and these people on all platforms, on all online platforms, through creating skepticism, rumors, outright threats, acts of hate, words of hate, and corrupting even the footage. So if the disclosure is not happening through they call them the black government, we call them the shadow government, it's the same thing, but they said if the disclosure is not happening through the black government's planned itinerary, then it doesn't carry the desired messaging frequency, which we know is fear. and then it's a threat to their goals, right? So if it doesn't carry the frequency of fear, if it's more likely to get people curious about aliens, interested in aliens, and not really necessarily afraid of aliens, then they're like, nope, that doesn't fit the bill. That doesn't fit our narrative. Let's just erase that. That didn't happen, basically. Okay, so that's on what the public brings forward. We're going to move on. But again, I'm going to tune in again. We're going to move on to talking about something very specific, the Peruvian alien life forms that were presented to the Mexican Congress, because I know a lot of people ask me about that. You know, the little bodies that they brought out. Again, if you don't know what this is, also look this up. Peruvian alien life forms presented to the Mexican Congress. Okay, so I'm going to tell you exactly what they said about that and if it was true or not. But let's tune in quickly and just see if we can go any deeper into the disclosures that the public brings forward, like on their own cell phones or whatever. Okay. Okay, so let me just ask. You know what's really funny is they're pointing at me, and whenever they point at me, they want me to share my own experience. Okay, so I had this experience, maybe, what month is it? September, maybe like a year. So not last winter, but the year before. So not quite 2 years ago. I had this experience with Brian actually, where it was so weird. Okay. He said he felt like we needed to go to the beach out of nowhere. And it's like dark and cold. It was like winter. And he said, I feel like we really need to go to the beach. And I was like, oh, okay, like let's go look at the moon or let's go look at the water. And I was like, okay, we can do that. So we get in the car and we go and we bundled up in like kind of like PJs and stuff. And we go and we're standing on the beach and we weren't even there 5 minutes. And this huge craft um with like it had like a ridge around it that was all lights but in perfect, like in a perfect row. So what you saw was just like a lot of blackness and then these lights, like a strip of lights that were perfectly in a row and curved a little bit, like you could tell that it was curved. And it was like um back up. So if we were like standing on the beach, it was a ways off, but it was like in the sky and it started coming like towards us, like this way. And I was like, do you see that? Like you always make sure someone else sees it when you're psychic. Like, is it, oh, wait, am I doing my thing? Or do you see that too? And he saw it too. And it was huge. And it was like on an angle coming towards us. It got so close to us. I took a couple of steps back and like, I'm pretty brave when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like I am definitely more like all in, let's have the experience, but it was huge and it swooped so close that I remember being like, whoa. And so I remember feeling like, whoa, we need to like step back a little bit. It kind of felt like it was like gonna crash or something like that. And then it steadied itself out and then started lifting back up. And so we stayed, we didn't like, we backed up a little from the edge where we were standing so close to it. And then as it started to rise back into the sky, we were watching it, like both of us just speechless. And a shooting star out of nowhere shot at it. Maybe it wasn't a shooting star, something shot at it just shot at it. And this thing went right at it, like somebody was targeting it. And as soon as it shot at it, it disappeared, like instantly disappeared. And I mean, I don't know what that was. We tried to tune in afterwards and see what that was. And we both were coming up with, oh gosh, I can't remember now what. I think Brian was really tuning in and picking up that it was Andromedan ship or an Andromedans in some way. Um, and I feel like sometimes the information, even if you're like the strongest channel, sometimes stuff is not available to you for a reason. And you can have that happen where it's almost like hitting a black wall, like, wait, I want to know. And it's like, you don't get to know, you don't need to know, kind of thing. We didn't get too far with what happened or why they were there, but so we had all these guesses about what that was. And it was very clear that as soon as that thing shot at it, which did look like a shooting star, but I obviously think that that was something else, that it just poof disappeared. So all these people in the area saw the same thing. Like, there was all of these reports on Facebook and in the newspaper channels and all these things that everyone saw it, and someone caught it on camera, and it was the same night and time that we saw it. Everyone saw it, okay? And that video looked exactly like what we saw, just from a different vantage point. And they tried to write that off and say that it was a satellite. And it just absolutely was not. Like, it was so close to us. Like, why would a satellite come hover over you, like, on the beach? It just wasn't. And they said that it was, and so that kind of just made everybody go, oh, okay, yeah, like a string of satellites or whatever. Okay, yeah, that must be what that was. And I remember sharing about my experience online, and people were parroting exactly what the news said. They're like, no, that was a satellite. They already said that that's what that was. So that wasn't, you didn't have an experience. And it's so funny, like, as an experiencer, maybe somebody listening has had this happen to them. People try to discredit you on behalf of the government. It's so weird because that programming is so strong that people don't want to believe that the world that they know could be turned on its head because it makes them feel unsafe. And maybe it's a subconscious thing, but they really try to take it from you and say, no, you didn't see that. No, that isn't what that. And it's like, you weren't there. And like, you don't also have the ability to feel and tune into things the way that I did. And it absolutely was real. So that's just going a little bit deeper into the way that it feels to be somebody outside of the government, just a regular person that has an experience. And when you try to share it, that programming to ridicule or discredit people is so deep that other humans will do it to you, not just the government. So let me know if that's happened to you. Like, have you had an experience where no one believed you and you told the truth and you know it was real and it 1000% happened? Like, I've had so many experiences. You guys know the abductions, and I've seen lots of craft, and I've seen weird craft. And I've seen like some visitors, like in the real physical, with me realm. And yeah, people like to be like bullies or even non-believers about it. So that's just a little bit deeper into what happens when the public tries to talk about their experiences. And so really, when everybody says, oh, we want disclosure, it's like, yeah, but even those people, even spiritual people, were the ones saying to me, no, that wasn't that. It's like, okay. So I don't know. It's like, do you actually want disclosure? Like, why are you discrediting other people or whatever? I think we have to clear that programming within ourselves and start believing these experiencers and these witnesses, and start opening your mind a little bit to the fact that there's craft always in the sky. There's always a craft somewhere in the sky. There's always aliens landing or coming in or coming down, going through the ocean. They're here on the planet with us. They're in inner Earth. They're in the skies. They're on all levels. What more do you need, right? To have a personal experience probably is what you want to have. And then that's when they start to believe. And then that's when they start to be kinder to people that have had experiences. Okay, let's move on. And the last thing that I want to talk about is the Peruvian, what I just said, the Peruvian, I've got a cat hair floating, the Peruvian alien life forms that were presented to Mexican Congress. Okay, so again, I asked the Council for Humanity about this because this was super, like, nobody could really agree on this. It was super controversial. And most people, there was like lots of memes about it being like cheesy, so badly done that it was an obvious fake. But was it? Here's what they said. They said, this is an example of a real life scenario that did not follow the Black government's planned itinerary or fit their messaging. It did not carry that desired messaging frequency of like the fear and aliens being something to a bad thing, okay? Because the tiny life forms that were presented were cute, by the way, but the tiny life forms presented from ancient times in Peru sent out the message that alien life was not dangerous. It was, in fact, cute. And at that time, they were clearly living in peace with humanity here on Earth because the remains were carefully mummified, suggesting community, suggesting that, these beings could land and be kind to humans and even live alongside them and even be respected and a part of their culture. That does not fit the agenda at all, right? So, because it didn't fit the agenda, very quickly, the scientists were discredited, are continuing still now to be discredited in all the ways that we suggested above, the online stuff, the taking what's the word? The proof. Oh my God, sorry. What is the word that I'm trying to say? The evidence. That was the word I was looking for. So yeah, so all the so again, what did we talk about that they would do to people that didn't fit the agenda? They would threaten them. They would take all of the evidence. They would discredit them. They would like do a whole online show about starting rumors, discrediting them, spreading those rumors, corrupting the evidence, doing this, doing that, like anything that they can do. So it says, thus the scientists involved will be discredited in all the ways that we have suggested, as well as having the remains confiscated under the guise of more testing needs to be done. But then they just take it, right? And then they tell you what they want you to know about the test and not the truth. So that was the truth. So if you thought that was fake, which it did kind of look like, it looked too, what did it look to? Look too easy? Look too simple? It did kind of look fake, right? It was like, well, we thought it was going to be bigger than that or scarier than that. But why couldn't it just have been that? Just like a cute, simple little being, right? That does exist. So there's no reason why it couldn't have been that. So I love the clarity here about that being a real scenario that just didn't follow the agenda. So let me know what you thought of that. I mean, it's okay. Take all of this, take it or leave it. You don't have to agree with everything that I think or everything that I channel. I would love to hear your opinions on that. But if if your opinions are based on, well, they did additional testing and it came back that it wasn't true. Well, yeah, obviously they're going to confiscate everything and then test it, obviously, right? But I really believe that man that brought things forward was trying to help disclosure along, and now he's going to be like humiliated, discredited, potentially right out of his career. They were talking about charging him criminal charges because it was a fake. It's like, I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. So crazy. All right. So I think that's the end of what I wanted to talk about. But what I can do is I can just tune in one more time and just see if there's anything. Let's just, because it's always fun to channel live. Let me just tune in and ask the Council for Humanity, which happens to have a lot of Pleiadians in it. Let me just ask them regarding disclosure, regarding government disclosure, regarding like public disclosure, public experiences. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us that you think would be a good addition to this video and this information? They're showing me a boat, like a huge, huge boat on the water. Okay, so that's what they're comparing it to. So they said, okay, you know how in the skies, pilots tend to be the ones to see a lot of stuff? Whether it's personal, small pilots, commercial pilots, military pilot, whatever. Everybody in the planes, they get to see all the stuff. But what we don't realize is that all of those big ships in the ocean also see an awful lot, because a lot, I don't know what percentage because I'm not getting one, a lot of the beings that come here from up there go into the ocean, and then leave through the ocean as well. Under the ocean, there are so many channels and tunnels, and they lead to inner Earth, which has cities, compounds, societies, and And then they just are showing me, you know, how like we see like the South Pole and the North Pole having a lot of activity for ships going in, because there's openings to inner Earth through those as well. While also just like there's hot spots in the ocean where that happens. So yeah, just something interesting to add in there, that captains of ships, cargo ships, and all these big ships that are always out there find a lot of evidence, have a lot of knowledge, and they're showing me like those black government or black force ops, whatever they are, having a lot like boats and like flying like so fast out to these ships to shut anything down. Anybody, like cell phones are confiscated, because any of the crews that catch anything on cell phones, they're all confiscated. They're showing me that this happens to pilots and to captains of ships and their crews, that cell phones are confiscated on the regular, and they are shushed and they are threatened, and they are like manipulated into not talking about it, or certainly not talking about it on a large, like to the public kind of thing. So that makes a lot of sense. That's super interesting. And then they are just saying, and deserts are another hotspot because there's not as much civilization and there's plenty of space like to land. Deserts are another really big hotspot on Earth. So oceans and deserts for landing and taking off, and then the skies just for like travel. They're saying like remote desert spaces where there are the people that live there, the society, the tribes, whatever that would live there, would almost be used to it, and really not have access to internet and stuff like that anyway. So they would on purpose, like aliens would on purpose choose those kinds of places to land and do their thing, so that they don't create a whole media hoopla. So basically it just sounds like there's constant comings and goings. And, you know, if you live in like a regular place, you're not really going to see it so much, but you can certainly watch the skies the way that we did and see a lot. I hope you guys are stargazing at night. There is so much that can be had. I've told a lot of people this, but if I haven't said it to you yet, stargazing at night is a beautiful way to reconnect with your starseed origins, to receive downloads, to receive frequency activations, upgrades. A lot happens if you go stand under the sky at night, where you can see the stars, the constellations, the moon. So if you're not someone that normally would do that on a decent night weather-wise, you should head out there and try it. And if you try that, you know, a couple of nights a week, and just keep that up for like even just a month, just see how different you feel and how much it adds to your wonder and your connection to those starseed origin roots. It's powerful. It's really powerful, and it's something that's simple and that everybody can do. Okay, awesome. I think we'll leave it there. There's so much that has already happened. Let's stop talking. Because I will go on, you guys. And I just want to thank you so much again for being here. This is, you know, one of my favorite topics to cover. I'm always here for your video requests. Thank you for requesting this, because I love it. I love to talk about it myself. So it was definitely something I was going to that I wanted to cover anyway. So then when I see a request, I'm like, yes, that means that's a good idea for me to do that video. So thank you. I love you guys. You know, I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much for being a part of my community and supporting me, whether that is watching these videos, whether that is following me over on IG and commenting and DMing and allowing me to know who you are, whether that is joining the membership, whether that is being on that, you know, email list of subscribers that get to see these weekly energy reports. It's all free. Or whether you've chosen to work with me and we've had sessions together, or I've seen you as a student in a class, in a classroom setting. I'm like so beyond grateful for you. You are my soul family. you are my soul family. My soul family is people that resonate. If you think that I'm speaking your language, you're speaking mine. Okay? It goes both ways. And so you are my soul family. We are here to work together. We are here to be here at the same time so that we don't have to do these kinds of things alone. And I'm just so grateful for that as well. And I have a really big, large soul family that I'm finding one person at a time. And that feels like a community, that feels safe, that feels like home. And I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. I know I keep saying that, but I am so grateful that I get to be a part of it and that I get to meet so many of you. That's like the best thing ever, is getting to meet so many cool people in this work and getting to hear about your crazy experiences and tell you mine. And um, it just makes you feel not so alone. Like it's important. It's really important to have community when you feel so different than 90% of the people out there, and you're like, wow, I feel so lonely. Nobody gets me. Nobody speaks my language. Nobody's had these experiences I've had. So here we all can find each other and talk about that. So again, if you are craving community, come on over to the membership, get in the group chats, get in the events, get in the resource section, which is huge. You will level up. You will experience your next level of ascension. You will grow so much, and you will have that community vibe, which is so valuable. So anyway, I love you. Thank you so much. And before we go, I just want to remind you, listen to your heart and the quiet voice within, because you are so much more than the body you are in. I love you, beautiful starseed. Thank you, and have a great night. Bye.